a lot of stress happens because we're ignoring the stress.
I feel like so many people where if it's time consuming and it's challenging, I don't know that I'm going to have the opportunity to place that into my everyday.
I'm not able to speak my truth. Well, there might be some tightness. Actually, maybe the reason why I'm grinding my teeth, for example, or I feel stress in my jaw or my throat is because I don't feel like I'm actually getting a chance to speak my truth or share who I am.
Just like mindfully relax. You might not get the answer, but that's okay. You've asked the initial question, as you said. Why? So when we talk about emotional awareness, especially around the inner critic, it's really easy to get lost and just allow that inner critic to be the emotional driver and to fuel those negative emotions and get really upset really fast over things that typically wouldn't even bother us. But because we're so stressed out and because our bodies are so tense and so tight from all of that stress that we're carrying, then the least little thing that triggers an emotion for us, we suddenly end up in this spiral of that negative thinking, and our emotions lash out at the people that we cherish the most, including ourselves sometimes. And so when we have emotional awareness practices that allow us to just kind of settle in and become aware of when that's happening to us, then it actually helps improve relationships because we're not just striking out at people that we care about for no reason, right?
Truth.
Yeah. And it's something we practice in our relationship all of the time because it's not like we're stress-free.
Yeah.
Not like we got some super pill somewhere that just said, you get to be without stress for the rest of your life. It's not how it happens. So we have to practice a lot of these things. And so the two things that we're going to talk about today are two practices that we utilize probably once a week, I would say, if not more often. And the first one I want to talk about is that body awareness meditation, where we can really scan our body and understand what's happening in it so that we can relax and release the tension in our body. And then that opens us up to begin to ask ourselves some very deep questions, right? And that will get to the second part of what we're going to talk about. But the body awareness meditation, like that scanning, that relaxing, as someone who had the injury that we've talked about repeatedly through our time on the Heart Leader podcast, this was one that I know you gravitated toward because it not only helped you kind of release stress, it also helped you heal physically. So I think it's a great thing for you to talk about because it's one that you used kind of on the daily for a while in your healing. So do you mind taking the ball and running with this?
Absolutely, my love. Well, first and foremost, let's maybe just bridge the potential gap on meditation itself. And I think that was a big thing for me because when I thought meditation, I was like, oh man, I've got to be in this, it's got to be perfectly silent. It's got to be dark. I've got to be sitting in this exact position. And then it's like, man, how am I supposed to be stress free when I feel stressed just even getting into this,
Oh yeah.
And so that was a big part. So I think what you told me that really, really helped me in this situation was that meditation isn't about being completely without thought or completely stress-free. It's about being present. And that's what I feel like this meditation that we're going to talk about today kind of takes that to the next level of it. And what you're able to do when you are clearly present with yourself. and your body. Because most of the time we're thinking about what happened, in the past, and we're thinking about what's going to happen in the future. And, and if we do have an awareness of our body, usually it's just around pain. And I, as someone who's had a body who struggles with pain for many, many years, even still to this day, to a degree, far less than before, thankfully. It's really difficult. And when you do feel pain, the last thing you want to do is feel present, because you're stuck in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, just help me get out of this instead of let me get more connected to my body so I can feel it even more. It's like, that's the last thing I want. Yeah.
We want to be out of pain, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we can't just get over it or around it. We actually have to get through it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where this being present and being in this meditation can really help with that. And so now that we have this understanding that it's meditation is about being present, then I think that context will really help in terms of executing this meditation. And it's one that allows us to, at least I feel, allows us to be a little bit on the analytical side, in terms of understanding where we are and where the body is, but kind of feel that balance between heart and mind, because we get to understand that logic, but we also get to feel, okay, what is it like? To me, like, being present is more being in the heart, and then being aware of what you're feeling in the presence is having that awareness from some of the logic can help. And so this kind of movement back and forth. So it's multifaceted in the way that it can actually help. But the reason how I used it was it really helped me identify the areas, because when I was deep in meditation and feeling through each part of the body, I'd love for you to kind of maybe go through and maybe walk through what it would actually look like for someone. But it really helped me say, okay, it's not just my back, it's all aspects. It's like, okay, well, what part of the back? Okay, well, if it's the lower back, well, then what part of that? And so it kind of got me deeper and deeper and deeper into the actual area of pain, so I could be very focused and understand why. And so we're gonna dive into that as the next tool. But if you can kind of expand on that in terms of the actual practice, that would be amazing.
Oh, of course. And as you're going through it and you're feeling into each part, and we're going to have this available in an audio format once the book is released. You can listen to it and just have that segment. But I'm going to take a moment here in just a moment and guide us through it, so we can feel, at least for a couple of moments, because the whole practice is to literally get yourself into a space where you can just feel from the top of your head down through the tip of your toes. And once you practice it enough, it'll become really quick. But you can just flow down through your body and feel where you're holding tension in your muscles, right? It's for so many of us. It's like our neck and our shoulders, right? We just love to go, and cut things off. And when we talk about where heart and mind align, well, if you're carrying all that stress in your body, then think about, or in your shoulders, think about what's getting cut off, right? So when we get into the next practice, you'll see how this ties together. But, right, when a muscle is tight, we're restricting blood flow when we get to the physiology of it, right? Because the blood vessels, the muscles are constricting upon them. Blood can't get through there as well. So you're not nourishing those muscles. You're also, like a kink in a water hose, you're keeping it from flowing to where it needs to go. So you're reducing the nutrients and the oxygen that needs to get to other parts of your body. So you're creating blocks in not only your energetic flow, but your physical flow that needs to occur. And so then you amplify that stress and you amplify that stress. So when we take the time to consciously have this emotional awareness, knowing that our emotions are causing havoc on our physical form, that stress is literally binding us up in our body, then we can combat it by relaxing our body consciously, which will also trigger our brain to go, oh, if I'm relaxing, then that means that whatever I believed emotionally was a danger must be subsiding, and I can relax. So then you're emotionally triggering to your brain that whatever was stressing you out has subsided, and all those stress hormones that you were releasing in your body can start to subside a little bit too. So it's a way of coming at it from a different angle and saying, okay, inner critic may have created all of these triggers in my body that may or may not have been in actuality, but I'm coming at it from a different angle and using the back door. And I'm going to use this meditation to consciously relax everything so that my emotional and my physical state can start to settle back in. And know that I'm okay. That, as we talked about, that saber-toothed tiger is not what's running after me. It might just be that I got triggered emotionally by something that isn't going to matter to me 10 minutes from now, and I can be okay. And so the way that the meditation goes is you just settle into whatever space you're into. I mean, honestly, it can be any space. And I did this in the office quite a lot when I worked in the office. And you just, if you can, close your eyes. If you can't, it's okay. You don't have to close your eyes. Like, it's not always easy to be at work and go, okay, this is my moment to zen out. I'm going to close my eyes at my desk. I get that. But if you can, absolutely do that, because it allows you to get in touch with what's going on in your body a lot better when your eyes are closed and you're not distracted by things. If you can't, find one point to focus on and just focus on that, right? Like right now I can focus on a spot on the wall, or I can focus on you, but you move, so it kind of takes a little bit away. So focus on a spot on the wall. And then to bring your awareness more internal, start to focus on how your breath is moving in and out of your body. It's one of the easiest ways to begin to really bring that focus inward, because we all breathe. If we're still alive, we're all breathing. So then we can just focus on how that breath is moving in and out of the body. Are we breathing fast? Are we breathing slow? Are we breathing shallow, only up into our chest? Are we breathing deep down into our abdomen? Where is that breath? What's the pace? What's the depth? And how can we begin to maybe deepen it and lengthen it? So as you inhale, can you pull those shoulders back so that you can expand into your chest? Can you breathe deeper down into that abdomen so that the breath is going wider and deeper and getting more of the body? Then you start to notice that even if all you're doing is expanding and deepening the breath, suddenly it goes longer. So it's not a shallow, short breath. It's a lengthened, expanded breath. And that alone starts to relax things in your body. Then you begin to bring your focus to the very top of your head, the very, very top, and start to scan down through every muscle from your forehead, down over your eyebrows, your eyes. You start to literally feel every muscle in your body. Your cheeks, your jawbone. We just love to carry stress here. Oh my gosh. I do it all the time. That's why I grind my teeth at night sometimes. And so if we can just begin to notice if we have the stress there, and then stay connected with that breath, and consciously and mindfully begin to just ask ourselves to relax that part of our body. Just relax. Release the tension and relax. And you might not have an extended period of time. Maybe you only have 5 minutes at work to do this. And you can't go from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. You just don't have that kind of time. Then take the time to notice where you have the most stress. Just like tune into your body and go, where am I the most stressed right now? Where do I feel it the most? And it may be that you've been sitting in a chair all day and you feel a ton of stress in your hips. So how can you use that expanded and deepened breath to really bring that down into the hips and relax that lower back and the hips? Just like mindfully relax and ask yourself, like, okay, why am I starting to feel this pressure and this pain here? What is going on? And you might not get the answer, but that's okay. You've asked the initial question, as you said, why? What's causing this? And it might be the fact that you're sitting in a chair that doesn't fit for you, right? But there could be something more to it than that. And all you've needed to do is plant the why seed. And then once you've relaxed and you can feel the relaxation starting to set in, because you're mindfully allowing yourself to relax those muscles, then you can start to bring yourself back into the space. And I would offer, we don't want to just go, oh, that was fun, and return to the space. Oh, I just had a great meditation. Sometimes that's a little too abrupt and the stress just comes right back, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, it's like getting out of a nice warm sauna and going into the cryotherapy, which, is a healthy way sometimes, but it's like, It's better to take your time and kind of make movements of fingers and toes and bring yourself back, even if your eyes have been open the whole time that you've been doing it, just so you have a return that doesn't unravel everything that you just did, right? And so when we create or we provide this meditation, it will be the full head to toe meditation, and we'll also have smaller sound bites where we focus on where people tend to carry a lot of stress, like the shoulders and the neck, the jaw, the hips and lower back. Those are target areas, so we'll break it down into chunks like that are shorter too.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. I'm Austin, co-host here at the Heart Leader Podcast with Amber. And if you haven't already, please take a quick moment to like and subscribe below. It helps us know we're making amazing content that you enjoy. And thank you for your support. We'll see you in the community. Back to the show. Thank you for walking through that. I know that really helped me. I know that you even just did that for me when, years ago, and just sent recordings and that was really, really helpful. And so I'm grateful that we're able to share this. I'm grateful that we're going to have this available for people so that they can actually utilize this. And it really is amazing, which is something simple of just bringing awareness. A lot of stress happens because we're ignoring the stress. And I think that's an area that we forget. And that's just, the more that we ignore it, the more stress builds up. It becomes that snowball effect. So even just that little bit of awareness of just a couple minutes, you do that every day, it compounds, it builds, it grows in a positive way. And it can really just kind of lower, maintain, or just hopefully eventually get to a point where you're able to do a quick scan pretty regularly in different parts throughout the day. And that can just help you be in a whole different, not only body space, but just mental, emotional, and spiritual space as well.
Yes. And it has to be simple from my perspective. I mean, I'm in the same boat with, I feel like, so many people, where if it's time consuming and it's challenging, I don't know that I'm going to have the opportunity to place that into my everyday.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to navigate this journey of self-love, self-improvement, silencing my own inner critic, like, it has to be something that can actually be included in my day-to-day. And that's why, for me, when it comes to faith, when it comes to self-improvement, when it comes to all of these things, when we place these out there and we ask our community to provide back, it's because we know that if we're going to do this together, if we're going to walk our talk of love and community and growth, we have to not talk about it and then make it unattainable. It has to be something that can actually be implemented. And we're talking now about literally going out and helping people implement these things. So how, in ways that we can do that. So stay tuned. Some really fun stuff coming up. But it had to start with us, right? We had to be our own test subjects. And we know it works because we had to live it ourselves first. We had to be the embodiment of all of these different things that we're providing. So that's kind of how I feel, which is how we got into the next emotional awareness practice, right? Because if I'm not emotionally aware, how am I going to be there to help you become emotionally aware, or to emotionally be there for you as a partner in any capacity? And so that was part of what brought up the 7 whys. And it was something that I had used in business at one point. But it was a slightly different in business. You know, they're like, always ask at least 5 whys when it comes to business to get to a root cause analysis. And I was like, we have 7 chakras, right? In some belief systems, there are 7 energy centers at least contained within the human form. And each one has its own response emotionally, energetically, for anything that we experience. So if I'm going to do a root cause analysis for my own emotions, then there needs to be a dive into the 7 whys of how I am energetically processing my emotional response as they're turning into feelings. And if you didn't have the chance to tune in last week or into our last one, we talked about the difference between emotions and feelings. And emotions being that initial response that we have, and it's almost like a physiological response where the feelings are what lasts. So an initial emotion might be anger, where a lasting feeling might be contempt or something that results from that anger. So just so we clarify that a bit before we head into this. But when we're talking about those whys, so that we can become emotionally aware of how our emotions turn into feelings, before I allow anger to turn into contempt, I want to go through and ask 7 times so I get a clear understanding from all of those energy centers. Why? Why am I feeling angry? From like a whole process, a whole being standpoint. And just keep asking why. The first one may come up, I'm angry because he's stupid, right? And that's going to be that root. I'm protecting myself. So I need it to be about him. not about me. That's a protective layer.
Mm.
So if I just stop there, then yeah, of course, that's going to be so easy. So easy, because it's about him, not about me, right? But then I have to ask the next why. Like, why am I really angry? Well, I'm angry because he kept me from doing what I desired to do. Now we're getting into the creative aspect. We're getting into the sacral chakra aspect, right? So then we just have to keep asking, why? Why? Well, I'm angry because I felt like I was stifled. Now we're getting into my sense of self, right? So the more we do this, the more we navigate through those whys, it keeps presenting and presenting, and we begin to understand the whole picture of how our being gets into the emotional flow and how the inner critic then gets in there and begins to weave in and out of that and keep you stifled in the lower aspects of that instead of letting you get to the, but when I look at my anger from an objective perspective and I see I'm learning something about myself, that's when we get into the higher awareness of it. I see my emotion is informing me. My emotion is informing me that I actually have a passion about this. And when someone comes in and challenges me in my passion, I have an opportunity to learn exactly what I'm passionate about. And it's not about them at all. It's about me. And when you can get to that point of emotional awareness, you're actually grateful when someone challenges you instead of being angry about it. And you never get to the point of being resentful about it. You get to a point of creating distance if someone's just going to continue to challenge you in a way that's not beneficial. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. It's amazing. And I love that the tie to the chakras, and it's not an exact in any way, but I think it's a great place. It's a great conceptual start, because it's like, okay, when I feel stifled, do I feel like I lose my voice?
Yes.
Do I feel like I'm not able to speak my truth? Well, there might be some tightness. Maybe some of my pain is actually maybe the reason why I'm grinding my teeth, for example, or I feel stress in my jaw or my throat. It's because I don't feel like I'm actually getting the chance to speak my truth or share who I am, and those around me or the people around me are stifling me, and I'm not able to be or show who I am. And so that's a big why that's not easy to just dive right into on a surface level, right? Or hey, I'm not, it could be like, I'm just not really seeing, I don't know why I'm seeing the different things. There's a block, there's a visual block of why I'm not able to get through the situation. Like, I'm not seeing all angles. That may be a third eye block, for example. You might be getting a lot of headaches because you're not really seeing things clearly. Or even on the top of your head, for example, like the crown chakras, your connection to your highest self. And so, or yourself beyond here, right? And so that's kind of a unique way, is like, maybe, man, I'm just, I feel disconnected from just who I am in general. And it just might be a way of like, these questions, like, what am I doing in my life? Why am I doing what I'm doing in my life? These questions are so important and reflective, and there could be a relation to the body, but even if there's not, it's a great way to be an anchor, because you are a human and you are experiencing life as a human. And so it can get you into that initiation to start being reflective. And so that's why I think that these questions are absolutely beautiful. And the way that you can continue to say why kind of really like drops you into that type of reflection and pulls the best out of you. And many times it'll pull part of you out that you actually may never have ever seen before.
Yeah.
Which is life-changing.
Exactly. And that's where, when you take the time to relax your body first, right? And you go through and you get in tune and in connection with, all right, so I know that I carry so much stress, as you pointed out. Maybe it is in your jaw, maybe it is in your hips. Whether you are someone who is in support of there being chakras or not, the energy centers, like, I know not everyone believes in that type of an approach, and that is fine. We're not telling anybody what to believe or push any agenda whatsoever, but it does bring you to a point where, when you begin to ask those whys, like, why am I is my physical body holding on to pressure and pain in this area of my body so often? And even if you were to ask the 7 whys about that, yes, it may be because physically you're not sitting properly. But is there more to it than that? Is there an emotional aspect to it that continues to cause you to hold pressure and stress in that part of your body? Because our emotions play a huge role in how we begin to pull ourselves in. When we feel unsafe, so often we do start to close ourselves off, right? We start to pull in because it's a protective mechanism. And when it comes to our hips, we do the same thing, like our whole body pulls together and pulls in. So is there any part of that that is playing a role in it? So it doesn't even have to be just about energy centers. That's what resonated for me.
Right.
I spent a lot of time studying multiple different faiths all around the world, and that was a piece that really settled in with me. But if it doesn't settle in for you in that capacity, it is fine. But still take from this what does resonate for you, and be willing to understand that your emotions do influence your physical form. And your physical form plays a part in your emotions. We are integrated, multifaceted beings. We can't separate ourselves out in pieces and parts. We are a whole. And so as that chained together whole being that is multifaceted, but still united, we have to understand how they all link together. And this gives us that opportunity to say, my mental, my emotional, my physical, my spiritual, they all integrate together. And if one of them is not aligning, then that means that there's a little offness here that I need to remedy, because now everything is going to start to be off just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And by taking the time to feel into where I'm off just a little bit, that's giving me the cue to where other things are off. So let me follow that and start to ask the questions. And when we talk about the inner critic, because this is so focused on that inner critic, that's a place where the inner critic is going to find its way in and start to point things out and start to want to feed off of that. So let's just close that gap as soon as we can, right?
I like that. It kind of reminds me of like when you have a solid foundation, like that's what you build, right? And let's say it's concrete, and this is even a physical thing. And when you start to see cracks in that foundation, they call it stress in the foundation. And if you don't fix it, right, then what happens? Those cracks get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually that building might either fall down or have serious issues, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like each time we allow that stress to continue, that, as you're saying, it's like the inner critic is literally getting in through those cracks and finding its way. And so that's why I love that visual of what you just shared, because it just helps me like, okay, yes, I need to be more aware, and the more aware that I can manage my stress and kind of keep it at bay, because it's impossible to be full stress free. I mean, it really, anyone who's selling you, hey, this is stress free, no problem. Like, no, it's not going to happen. Can you be a lot less stressed? Absolutely. Absolutely you can. And so it's really about maintaining and managing that stress and having the right tools to help you do it, and tools that aren't also stressful, to be like, oh, I'm stressing about being stress-free. It's like that whole concept. And so when we are able to have amazing tools like this to keep us present, to make it light and fun, but keep us aware of our form in all aspects of who we are, body, mind, emotion, and spirit, then it can be a strong foundation, keeping that inner critic out of the way, and just allow it that, like, hey, we're in direction of all aspects of who we are. So yes, we're going to manage life a lot better with a lot less stress.
Yes. Thank you for always having epic conversations with me.
Thank you, my love.
And thank you for tuning in and joining us in these epic conversations. I am the host of the Heart Leader podcast, Amber, and I've been joined by Austin, and we are ever so grateful for you and your time that you gift us. If you haven't had an opportunity yet to hit that subscribe button below so that you never miss an episode, we would greatly appreciate that as well. It allows us to know that we are creating content that you find useful and valuable. We are also creating a book about silencing your inner critic. And if you would like to get 20% off of that, you can venture on over to silenceyourinnercritic.com, register, and not only will you get 20% off when it launches here soon, you'll also get a free version of one of our most popular courses. It is called the Mirror Technique, and it is absolutely free. It will walk you through 1 week of this wonderful, wonderful technique where you get to see yourself with the most loving eyes. You'll get to join me through the entire thing. So I look forward to seeing you in that. Until next week, when we meet again, I look forward to seeing you in our community and reading all of the comments and questions that you have to share below. Thanks so much.